This is Horror Podcast.
Welcome to This is Horror, a podcast for readers, writers, and creators. I'm Michael David Wilson, and every episode alongside my co-host Bob Pastorella, we chat with the world's best writers about writing, life lessons, creativity, and much more. Today is the second in our two-part conversation with Ryan C. Bradley. Ryan is a musician, podcaster, and the author of the novella Saint's Blood, Bad Connections Horror Stories, and the brand new novel Say Uncle from Ghoulish Books. His short fiction has appeared in No Sleep, Tales to Terrify, and Dark Moon Digest, among other venues. So before we get Ryan on the show, a quick advert break.
From the host of This Is Horror Podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. Their watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. They're Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
It was as if the video had unzipped my skin, slunk inside my tapered flesh, and become one with me.
From the creator of This Is Horror comes a new nightmare for the digital age, The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. After a teacher receives a weirdly arousing video, his life descends into paranoia and obsession. More videos follow, each containing information no stranger could possibly know. But who's sending them, and what do they want? The answers may destroy everything and everyone he loves. The Girl in the Video is The Ring meets Fatal Attraction for the iPhone generation. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audio.
Okay, with that said, here it is. It is Ryan C. Bradley on This Is Horror. So in terms of perhaps the inciting incident in Say Uncle and the moment that Braden realizes that there are certainly more levels to Uncle Paulie than he envisaged is when he is looking to get his porno mag, and instead of finding his porno mag, he discovers a book that is bound in human flesh.
Yes.
Which is very difficult to wank to, in fact. So, how did that come about that you decided not only was there going to be an occult book, but it was going to be bound in human flesh?
Well, the decision to have the book bound in human flesh came because there was when I was living in Boston in like 2014 or 15, an article came out where they had a book that was bound in human flesh in the Harvard Library. And I read about that. I don't think I started Say Uncle for another like 5 or 10 years, but I just put that. I read about it and I was like, that is a detail I have to put into something at some point because that's too good not to. And I was reading more about it recently, and I wish I had read this before. But one of the initiations they do, if you got a job at this library, they would send you to get the book. They'd give you like the call number, like, hey, can you go grab this? And when you got there, they'd be like, that's human skin, which is super fucked up. And apparently you could see pores in this book. Like if you look at this book closely, you could see pores. But it's highly unethical because the woman whose skin it was did not consent to be turned into a book. It was her psychiatrist's book, and after she died, he just used her flesh. But I read that, and I was like, this needs to be in my book.
So this actual book, was it a book on psychiatry, or was the psychiatrist also just a fiction author? It's like, no, it's the Railway Children. It's
Uh,
Enid
oh man,
Blyton's Enchanted Forest.
I reread more about it when I did the Ghoulish episode with Max. So I talk about it a bunch on there. If I'm remembering right, because that was like 2 months ago, it was a book about souls. So it's like a philosophical text by a psychiatrist on the nature of souls and what happens after you die. And he wanted to bind it in human flesh because he thought like the human flesh would be a good, it was a fitting binding for a book about souls.
So there wasn't any type of occult connotation with that or anything like that. It was just basically someone talking about what happens, I guess, to our souls. And because I think that if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but haven't there been grimoires that have been bound in human flesh?
Yeah.
Am I thinking that, or is that something that people made? I'm pretty sure there's like a couple of grimoires that are out there that supposedly these things have been bound in human flesh.
I think that's true. Because when I was reading about it, they said there's like a number of books have been bound in human flesh. This was just the one that happened to be like in the Harvard Library from like the 1920s to, they removed it recently. That's what the more recent articles are about. They took it out and they just made it like a digital only thing for now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's grisly.
And how recently are we talking? Are we literally talking within the last 5 years that they decided, right, this woman from the 1920s who didn't consent, we've done this against her consent for 100 years, and that's enough? Was that the level of their morality?
I think there was like 80 years where they had a book that they did not realize was bound in human flesh. So it was like 80 years, and they rediscovered it in like 2014 or 2015 when I first heard about it. And I think it was like 2023 they took it out because it got a lot of attention. Because I think they're they're reevaluating all of their collection items of human remains because they also had a lot of stuff about indigenous Americans, and so they like realized they should give that back to the tribes. And I think someone said like, what about that book bound in human flesh? You want to think about that too? Kind of conversation.
Oh my God. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would do to bring more attention to my books and for the marketing efforts, but I do think that bounding the book in human flesh might be a step too far. And if it was, then I would definitely get consent.
Yeah, I mean, the consent is very, very important. If I'm going to have a book bound in flesh, I want someone to give me, it's not going to be my flesh. I don't have great skin. I'm very pale. I burn very easy. I don't know if that continues if you get turned into a book. Can the book get sunburned? I mean, with my skin tone, probably.
I don't know. I wouldn't even think. As soon as you said that, I was like, and poor Ryan, bless his soul. His final book has been bound in his foreskin, and you can actually see the scar where the bee stung him right here. Just that's where my mind went with this. I'm sorry, but it did, and it's fucking great. You should do that. It should be in your. It should be in your will.
Why would they use the penis flesh?
Either Ryan has a really fucking big foreskin, or it's a really small edition of the book.
I just don't know, man. It's too much. It's too much.
It's like an inch by an inch. If it's a foreskin.
Yeah. That's just. I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh shit, there we go, off the deep end.
Would you ever consider a special edition of your book bound in human flesh, not bound in that flesh, but any human flesh?
If someone were to consent to it, I wouldn't want it to be my flesh. And I don't imagine there's a lot of people who would be like lining up like, there's an indie horror author who wants your skin for his book. I don't think a lot of people would really be volunteering for that without unless I had a hefty monetary settlement to give them, and I do not have that. And if I did, I would go on vacation.
Thunderstorm Books, if you're listening, you have created some very special limited edition books. Are you prepared to go from hardback to human flesh? If you are, this is the book for you. Say Uncle by Ryan C. Bradley.
It
Let us
is
know, Paul.
it's a special limited edition book. Singular.
Oh my goodness.
Unless I don't know, man. It's like how could you stretch the skin?
I think there's a
It-
whole process, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just I don't know, that sounds like Ed Gein territory there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the point where he discovers the book, there's this whole kind of game of chicken and who's bullshitting who, because they kind of the uncle and Braden both know what he's found, but they don't want to admit it. So, how did you kind of tread that dance, and how did you kind of ensure that there was dramatic tension throughout?
I mean, so that's the scene I've been reading during all of my readings. I love that scene. So I think it communicates a lot of what the book has to offer. But I think I was really just channeling Hitchcock as much as I could. I think the first 50 pages or so of the book, it's just as much Hitchcock as I could put into it. But a lot of it's just neither one wants to admit because neither is sure. They both think, but they don't know for sure. And so they're kind of yeah, like you said, it's a cat and mouse game. I don't know if I particularly thought about it while I was straddling it. I kind of just click-clacked away and it happened. I'm never great at answering process questions because I just kind of I was typing and then the scene came out.
And I mean, what genre would you put this book into? And if you had to kind of say the genre that you write, what would you put that into kind of as a whole? Because I mean, for me, it it is a dark comedy, but there's also, of course, elements of horror. I mean, god damn it, you've got a book that's bound in human flesh. And then probably at about the goodness, I guess 70% mark, then it really jumps into cosmic horror. There's almost a genre shift, but it's something that's been foreshadowed. But then I guess for the first even 30% of the book, I mean, you could just say it is a dark comedy of a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, I don't know how to market my books. I think I was listening to you and Danger Slater talk about this a couple weeks ago. I don't know what genre. Normally, what I'll say is when people ask me what genre, I say I write horror comedy and comedy about horror. And I phrase it that way because I think horror comedy is very approachable. And when I mean, this is a business guy question. When I'm in business brain, I want to sell books to people who don't read horror because I think there's that audience. I want to sell to the horror audience too, but when I'm pitching stuff, I'm not targeting that audience. I think that audience is going to find me. I don't need to, but I'm trying to reach out to people who are not part of that audience already because I think a lot of people who say they don't like horror, and I know you guys talked about this recently too, people say they don't like horror, but they do. And I think my books are things that they would love. So I say horror comedy, but I recognize that it's not like a complete genre title because I think what I'm writing is when I try to come up with comps, I had no ideas. Because Hellraiser versus Uncle Buck, they're technically comps. Neither one of them is anything like the final story you get. So I share you and Danger Slater's struggle where I'm just please read my book. I think you will like it. I think it's a good book, or I wouldn't have published it or tried to get it published. But yeah, I really struggle with the genre name.
Yeah, you can't call it esoteric comedy because that doesn't really do anything. And that's just a fancy word for anything that has to do with the occult.
Yeah.
To a degree, occult comedy is too niche.
Hmm.
So you're only gonna get those. Oh, it's a cult. Oh, wow! I didn't know that they were still doing those. Yeah, it's like, but it's I don't know. I mean, horror comedy. I would go with that.
Yeah.
For like this particular book, 100% definitely horror comedy.
Yeah. I think like Absurdus or Bizarro would fit probably. But I think when you're talking to people who aren't like steeped in the genre the way we are, those are like Bizarro, like the guy who fights Superman, is like what people are going to say. That's what they're going to think of first, not like a literary genre.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be kind of lost within the terminology, and so you don't want to bog them down uh, on something, especially something like this. That is, it does have a lightheartedness to it to some degree. There's some grisly shit in here, but it's yeah. I would still go with horror comedy. I still would. It could be. It had a very John dies at the end, Evil Dead, Uncle Buck meets Hellraiser feel to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of want to bring dark comedy more into the parlance for fiction books, because I think when you put dark comedy instead of horror comedy, it becomes even more all encompassing. And, I'd certainly think for when Max writes something comedic, then their work would fit into dark comedy.
Yeah.
Max is very interesting because they almost have two modes where they have
Mhm.
really bleak, pitch black horror, and then they have just the absolute laugh out loud humorous side. And then, I'd put Danger Slater's work in dark comedy too. I'd put Say Uncle there. I'd put my latest one, Daddy's Boy, if I could be so bold to put my own work
Of course.
in that
Yeah.
category. And I'd even put what Jasper Barker's doing in dark comedy too. But like we said before, dark comedy is probably the best label we're going to get, but it doesn't capture it fully because, you've got absurdism, you've got bizarro, you've got esotericism. Is that how we say esoteric horror?
I don't know how to say that
You've
word
got the
either.
occult. So,
Yeah.
you might as well just throw it all in to dark comedy. It's like, do you like fucked up things? Yes. Do you like to have a laugh? Yes. Right. Well, fucking read these books then.
Yeah. It's very hard to market. But I think the artist side of me is just like, I'm going to keep making the shit that makes me excited.
It's all we can do. It's all we can do if we want to be happy, if we want to be doing this for the pure joy that we started writing in the first place. And, talking about kind of early inspirations and goals, I know that Ghoulish Books, who were Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing at the time, that your goal was to get a book with them. And here it is. It's happened. So how did that come about?
Well, Max and I both had stories in the Gothic Blue Book 5, the Cursed Edition. And so I kind of found out by Perpetual Motion Machine Publishing. That was my first published horror story. And I submitted to them, and they took one of my stories. And then I started reading their stuff, and their stuff was incredible, as you know, and as you've mentioned. I was like, this is someone who's writing like, we're not writing exactly the same thing. We're writing in similar modes. And I wanted to work with them. And I started reading Ghoulish. I got another story in Perpetual Motion Machine, or in Dark Moon Digest. And then we were living in Tulsa, and we had to choose between, my in-laws moved to Dallas. I did not want to live in Dallas. So we were choosing between Houston and Austin. At that time, Max and Andrew were running the Ghoulish show in Austin. So it was like, if I go there, I could like perform with those guys. That would be awesome. And so we chose that over Houston. It's also the traffic in Houston is brutal. So it wasn't like the only factor. I don't want to sound like a stalker here. But yeah, I think that's mainly how it came up, because I think I pitched the book to Max. I'd probably had too much to drink after one of the shows, and we were talking, and they weren't open to submissions at the time. And I was telling them how I'd just gotten a rejection from one publisher. And I shouldn't mention publishers' names. Like, the next publisher I was going to try, and Max said, like, why don't you try me with the book next? And 6 months later, we had a contract signed.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
incredible. I wasn't sure if I would ever, like you set a goal, like publish with Ghoulish, who I think are one of the best publishers. You don't know if you're ever going to get there, though.
No, and I mean, what's great about Ghoulish is they just put the quality of the story absolutely at the front and center in terms of what they will put out. You know, it's just, did we enjoy the story? Is it doing something interesting? And I think their back catalogue really shows that.
Oh,
And their
absolutely.
front catalogue and in the center, anywhere in the Ghoulish catalogue.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
good
I mean,
books.
Yeah, there's an aesthetic that they have, which is like, which your book is a perfect example of what they do. This is the book. My book, The Small Hours, I felt that there was no other publisher that would take it on. It probably was, but the best publisher
mhm.
would have been Ghoulish, and that's who it's going through. And so, you know, if the tone of the book might have been a little bit different, I would have probably scattered it out a little bit more. But it was a total focus there because I felt like the fit was so good. And you know, you probably once you sent it to them, you probably felt the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm also honored, like, I don't want to sound like a kiss ass, to be publishing with like you guys, because you did the girl in the videos with Ghoulish, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Mojo Rising.
Yes.
It's like I'm honored to be publishing next to you guys. You guys are awesome. And Betty Rocksteady, Danger Slater, these writers I love. Jessica Leonard.
Yeah. They have a roster.
Yeah, and Say Uncle is absolutely up there with the best that Ghoulish have put out. I mean,
Oh, thank
God,
you.
it was, you know, just beyond everything else, it was so much fun. I was like
Mhm.
laughing so much and, you know, just really enjoying it. The pace, the dialogue, you know, that perfect balance of kind of the horror and the comedy. So it really worked for me, and I'll definitely be checking out whatever you put out next.
Thank you. Yeah, the pacing was heavily influenced by Uncanny X-Men, specifically like Chris Claremont's run. I just like loved the way he paced those comics, and I tried to like take the way, because every one of those comics, whenever an arc ends, the very last panel was like, the X-Men don't get to go home. Oh shit, they have a new thing they have to do. And that was exactly how I tried to pace Say Uncle.
Would you be interested in going into comics at some point?
Yeah, I'm working on an 8-page comic with a friend now. We don't have a home for it yet, so I can't say too much about it. But I've been like obsessed with old dentistry lately, and the way like in France in like the time of Louis the Great, they would, if you lost a tooth and you were a noble person, you could buy a tooth from a peasant, and they would take it out with a little bit of gum, and they'd put it back into your mouth or into the noble person. They'd sew it back in, and if the blood types matched, the tooth would stick. So I have a little comic about that I'm writing and a friend's going to draw, and so hopefully that'll find a home.
That made my whole mouth hurt.
Yeah, the stories are so. I was reading a book about transplants for a book that I wrote that just like, it was terrible. It's never going to get published. But they talked about like the history of dentistry, and it's just such fascinating stuff. I was like, I got to put this into something because it's all so gross.
Yeah, that's just the whole idea of. So they take the tooth with part of the gum.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then I kind of see why they want to do that, but at the same time, they could have just took the tooth and just shoved it up in there,
Well, I think the gum is essential for like the tooth to have like
Right.
the arteries and the veins connect. Not arteries, but the veins, so the blood can get into the tooth.
I don't know. In my mind, it would be like, let's just shove the tooth up in there, but it probably wouldn't take. It probably wouldn't stay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's probably not a.
Yeah, and just imagine like the economic inequality that someone could just buy your tooth if they lost theirs.
Oh wow! But you did research for that. I wanted to ask about on the new book. Did you have to do a lot of occult research? Did you wing it? What did you how deep did you go?
So this is not going to be a popular answer. I went 0% deep. I winged it completely because for me, the concern was the occult in the book is a symbol, and everything about it is symbolic for toxic masculinity, like we've been talking about, misogyny.
Right.
And so when I was working with it, I mostly thought about like, how do I make the symbol work? How do I make the symbolism work more than like, how do I get the occult right? So I'm
Right.
sure there's going to be people who are occult and Wicca specialists who are going to read my book and hate it. And I'm sorry to those people, but I can't write a book for everybody.
No, they might. There might be some people who do that, but I mean, it's in the comp Hellraiser. Clive Barker has famously been known to say, "Hey, if it doesn't work, make it up." That's what I did.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't find any reference of the Order of the Gash anywhere except for in Hellbound Heart. Sorry.
Yeah.
And you mentioned before you have a 3-year-old child, you have a 3-year-old daughter. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing then, in terms of the timeline, probably she was 1 year old or perhaps a little bit under when you were writing Say Uncle. So I'm wondering how that played into the writing.
I'm a pretty slow writer. So Say Uncle was mostly done by the time she was born. And it took me a while to do the revisions, but I was mostly working on like the AOL Instant Messengers were a very late addition. So that was probably most of what I wrote while she was alive. And I've thought about it since. And the book is not sympathetic toward the parents. And I think if I'd written this book after I'd had a kid myself and seen how fucking hard being a parent is, the book would have been much nicer to the parents of everybody, because it's real hard raising a kid.
Oh, yeah. I know firsthand about all of that. And
Yeah.
I mean, so since becoming a parent, has that affected what you're working on now? Do you think, raising a kid, fatherhood, parenthood, do you think that could become a thematic concern for future projects? Is it already?
A great question. I think there's a short story or two in Bad Connections, which is my collection that's out, that have parent themes written after I had a kid, but it also has some stories that have parent themes in them that were pre-kid. I'm curious if listeners would read it and tell the difference. I don't know. I've not written about having a kid since I wrote one, because I'm still mostly like a stay-at-home dad. And that can get pretty brutal at times. And so like I've written about like some of the pain that comes with that, because it's mostly a good experience. I shouldn't complain, because like a lot of people would love to have the privilege to be a stay-at-home dad, as difficult as it can be. And the story I wrote about that, I reread it like 3 months later. It was the worst thing I've ever written. Like, it's just not good at all. And like, you can see that there's a lot of pain in it. It's very raw, and there's no story, and there's no way anyone who's reading it would feel the character's pain. It's just like, I was so deep in it when I wrote that I just didn't communicate it well. But there's a huge adjustment when you like go from like having no kid to having a kid. Your brain has to completely rewire. And that was not an easy process, especially when my partner went back to work and her mom went back to her house. It was just like me and a kid alone 12 hours a day.
Yeah, I get that. The first 18 months of my daughter's life, I was essentially the stay-at-home dad. And you know, like a lot of the time, I had her in this kind of wearable, so I'm typing and she's there, and I'm trying to be as productive as ever. Like, I am a bit of a workaholic. Some might modify a bit of and be like, no, you are a workaholic, but trying to do that and, you know, try to be the best dad possible. I mean, it is kind of an impossibility. You can never be the perfect parent. You just have to do the best that you can
Yeah,
at
you have
that
to.
time. And but the isolation is maybe the worst thing about it. And like you say, it's one of those things that's a little bit difficult to talk about, because you understand, you know, it is a privilege to be able to get all that time
Yeah.
with your child, but at the same time, some of the like pain and the isolation and the depression or depression adjacent feelings, they are real. So it's navigating the way to talk about it. And something you said, which definitely resonated, was you wrote the story, but because you were so in the moment, it ended up being terrible, and you weren't kind of articulating it in the way that one would for a publishable story. And I've had that happen before. And when we're writing about either trauma or we're writing about difficulties, I think it can be good to write things when they're fairly fresh. But if you're literally still in it, there's no objectivity. So I don't know. Sometimes you have to write it anyway to get it out. But it's like, right, well, you've written it. Don't send it anywhere yet. Look at it and edit it or repurpose bits of it when you're in a better kind of mind space.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna have to do. I wrote a lot while she was an infant, especially while she was napping, and I don't think any of it's any good. I think it was admirable that I tried, but most of the work I did then was just trash. I think I had this feeling that, like, if I didn't keep writing, and I think I still to some extent have this feeling where like I didn't. I think I took off 3 weeks from teaching when she was born. I should have taken off more. I didn't take off about. I think I was writing like the day after she was born. But I mean, that's not that bad, because like with a 1 day old infant, she's going to eat and sleep. That's it. I can't contribute to the eating at that point. I can be with my partner, but then she sleeps for the baby sleeps for 4 hours, 3 hours after that. So I was writing then, but I had this idea that, like, if I didn't keep going, whatever I let go of in that first 6 month period, I would never get back, because I've talked to a lot of people who said that, like, I decided just not to do this for a week and it never came back. And I thought that that would happen to me, which is probably more of an anxiety thing than a real thing.
Yeah, I tend to find that in these moments of, I guess, kind of complete stress or life upheaval, that I'm much better at editing and revisiting and
Yeah.
rewriting than I am creating something fresh. So, you know, I've mentioned on some podcasts before, like, me and my wife are expecting a child in December. So right now I'm kind of chaotically creating like all these
Yeah.
first drafts, so that it's like, right, I'm not going to be in a good space for actually creating new things, but I am going to have something that I can work on.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think maybe though, we've even saying that, you know, oh, I've got these things I can work on, does again speak to my issue of working too much. It's like, just fucking enjoy your time with your newborn and your wife, you psycho. Put the pen down.
Okay.
um,
A lot of
There's going
people.
to be a lot of podcasts in November.
I
Recordings.
don't know if you're half joking, but well, you know me. You're probably not joking. Yeah,
No,
no.
no, no. No, because I know as man, it's like when after the baby's born, you have responsibilities and you have duties that you need to fulfill. And so yeah, I would expect that October and November are probably going to be busy. They're busy anyway, but I mean, you know, we can probably get a lot done. Get some stuff in the pipeline to where you can actually take a actual break
Yeah, and
and do the right things.
yeah, I don't want to sabotage, this podcast with you, Ryan, by talking about me too much, but this might be the first episode where I've like explicitly mentioned, okay, we're expecting a child, and it is a big moment because I
Yes.
mean, on top of everything else, like people who have followed along, they'll know that yeah, I had like a massive kind of custody battle and divorce. I didn't see my daughter for a number of years. So
Oof.
to now be in the situation where me and my wife are going to be having our family, and it's remarkable. But this is your fucking interview. This isn't the MDW show.
Well, I mean, please talk about your baby. I'm not trying. Your baby is more important than my book. I'm not what's the word? Of course, your baby is more important.
It might be so, and if I if I said no, your book is more important, and my wife listen, what the fuck?
But I would also say, "What the fuck?" I'd be with your wife.
That'd be right. Or well, there's your second divorce right there. Like one step closer to being Uncle Paulie. uh, so, I mean, I want to know, what is your writing routine at the moment? How are you navigating all of this, being a stay at home dad, teaching guitar lessons, and writing fiction?
It's my kid is in daycare from 7 to 12. So 7 to 12, I run and I write, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll lift too, like basically work out, write, and that's what I do during that time. Get her from school. On a good day, she'll nap, and I'll read. I guess I'll read a little bit during the mornings too. I'll read and I'll nap too, and then my partner gets home like 5:30. I cook dinner. I'm teaching by 6:30 most nights. Nights I'm not teaching, I'll play an open mic or Michael Lewis Dixon lives nearby, and we'll watch a horror movie on a lot of Tuesdays. So it's pretty busy, but I want to teach, I want to play music, I want to write, and I want to make sure on the nights that I'm not doing those things, I'm spending enough time with my partner so she doesn't feel neglected and maintain our relationship. So it's busy. There's not a lot of downtime, but these are the things I want out of life. So these are the things I'm doing.
And is not the writing, is the running and lifting a set time, or is that kind of determined on how deep you are into a story?
So it depends what I'm training for. It's like right now I'm training for I'll start training for a half marathon the Monday after KillerCon, which is this weekend from when we're recording. I'm not sure when this will be released, so it might be by then. It's like when you're doing like a training plan like that, you start out doing like, right now it's 30 minutes on Monday of cross training, 3 miles Tuesday, 4 miles Wednesday, 3 miles Thursday, and I lift after the 3 miles. Then there's more miles on the weekend. But you do all that 1 week, and the next week it goes up a little bit, and it goes up a little bit, and it goes up a little bit until you run the race. Then after the race, you have this like, you take like a week or two off. So basically, the running time is determined by where I am in the training plan, what I'm training for. But I really enjoy it. I like the challenge of it. It does at some points, like when like you're doing a marathon, there's one Saturday for marathon training where you run 20 miles. I promise you, I did not write after that. I did not do anything. It took like 4 or 5 hours. It was brutal.
And when you're lifting, are you doing lifts that will deliberately support the running, or is it more like these are just the lifts for fun, the lifts that you enjoy, the lifts that make you feel good?
I mean, so one day of lifting is legs, which is like specifically so I don't blow my knees out running. And then I'll work my upper body too because I want to look good. I never look as good as I want to look, but that's mainly because I eat like shit.
I get the kind of never looking as good as you want to look. That is something that I kind of battle with. And then to add like some complication to it all, then my brother is a professional power lifter and bodybuilder who owns his own gym. So sometimes like I look at my younger brother and I'm like, God damn it, he's like so much more ripped. But then at the same time, it's like, yeah, but he's literally the kind of pro athlete and you're the writer. He might be able to do a better squat, but if you give him a pen, he won't write a funnier sentence. So, swings and roundabouts.
My brother is also a big weightlifter, and I feel exactly what you feel.
Yeah.
We have these guys at work that a couple of guys that do food preps, and one of them he's diligent and very vigilant in his food preps, like to the point to where it's like, hey, that looks like some stuff that was growing out of my front yard you're about to eat, and it's like, no, this is called kale. It's really good for you, and I'm like, okay, it just looks like trees.
Don't mock kale, Bob.
But and then so I'll go to lunch, and it's like, but it never fails. Me and this guy would be at lunch at the same time at least one time a week, and he'll have the turkey meat and all that, and I've got like a Whataburger, and it's like, and he's like, you did pretty good on your you lost a lot of weight, but you still eat the Whataburger, and I'm like, yeah, well, one, I don't have two patties on here; it's only one patty. And two, I don't have mayo anymore. It's all mustard. And three, it doesn't even have cheese on it. I got this because I could pick it up real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to eat all of it. But I'm still living better than you are, Mr. Kale.
I know you were going to add 4. I want to enjoy life. I was waiting for that point.
Yeah, because it's like, how can you live? You eat turkey every day. There's other meats. There's other vegetables other than kale.
Yeah, you got broccoli and spinach.
Yes, those. I hate it when he eats broccoli. It stinks up the whole back room.
Oof.
And he used to eat 6 boiled eggs, and he would peel them.
Oh.
You have to draw the line somewhere.
If you peel the egg before, then it won't stink out the staff room as much.
Yeah.
That's the key.
He
and
would
if
peel
you
them
use
eggs.
frozen broccoli, not fresh, then it won't smell as much. So there's your tips from someone who tries to eat healthily, but also wants, the vast majority of his colleagues not to fucking kill him.
Yeah.
Just the vast majority.
Yeah, but it's funny though, and it's just the whole concept of you're vigilant. And here's the thing: he looks good, I mean, because he works out and all that. I don't know, and just he ain't living.
You gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, I'm quite disciplined with the food that I eat. I vary it up more, with my wife. If I lived alone, then it probably would be chicken and broccoli most days. Like I can eat like that. It's fine. Like it doesn't bother me. Food is fuel. Food is having a purpose. But yeah, as the main cook, if I did that with my wife, it's like, come on. So yeah, I cook a variety of different dishes, and it's a happier relationship for it.
Yeah, I'll stay in the regular food groups and see, like my food groups is like pizza's a food group, seafood's a food group, steak's a food group.
Oh my goodness. So what is it that you're working on fiction-wise right now?
I have a Patreon I call it Drop Dead Fiction. So I'm working on those constantly. Those are like I describe them as like, if the Twilight Zone was performed by Tim Robinson from I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, it's like that kind of stuff. I do that. And that's like straight horror comedy. Where I think, like, say Uncle has all these other elements, that's just horror comedy that I'm doing there. So I'm working on that always. I'm working on another longer work called Call Waiting, and it's about this young woman who she's on the phone with an airline. She's trying to convince them to refund the airline ticket she bought with her mother bought for her to her credit card instead of her mother's. And when they put her on hold, she gets sent into a labyrinth with a minotaur. And she's stuck with all of these other people who are on call waiting. So I have a first draft of that done. And there's a really stupid part of my brain that's like, what if it was an epic poem? So I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to convince myself an epic poem is a really stupid fucking idea. Business Ryan is screaming. He's throwing rocks at Creative Ryan, but Creative Ryan is like, you should just do the first chapter. See if you like it. Put it in meter. What if you do iambic pentameter for 40,000 words? And I hate that person, but I also am that person. So I'm thinking about that a lot. I haven't started the second draft yet, but I think that's going to be my next big project. I have another couple big things that I've written. I just don't know if I'm ever going to revise them. I don't know if they're good enough to be worth revising. And I'm always working on shorts. I just love writing short stories. You can't make any money on them, but I keep doing it. There's a writer I really like, Jim Shepard, and he's always writing short stories. When his wife asks him like why, he just says, "Be quiet, or I'll start writing haikus."
Oh my goodness. And I totally relate to, your brain essentially telling you, like, here's an idea that will make your novel, will make your fiction less commercial and harder to sell. But goddamn, you want to do it, don't you? The amount of times I've just added a almost bizarro element to a book that could have had commercial potential. And probably it didn't even need that element for the story to still stand up. But I wanted to do it. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, it reminds me of that bit in, I believe in Mr. Bones with the doctor, and they've got the side hustle selling what is it, like fruit pies, and you don't need it at all. It probably makes it absolutely less commercial, but it's just hugely enjoyable. It's just such a fun little deviation.
Yeah.
And something reminds me of something Max said recently on social media that about not killing your darlings, letting your darlings live. Sometimes you get that weird, crazy concept, and it's the thing, and it's like, well, no, I should squash that. No, don't. I wholeheartedly think that you should 100% do an epic poem about call waiting. I really do. And here's why. You have a draft written.
Yeah.
You've got absolutely nothing to lose by trying it.
Yeah.
The only thing that you have to lose is that you never tried.
Yeah. I think I'm at least going to do a chapter in meter and see what it's like. Because I've never written in that form before. And the thing that I really worry about just on a creative level is that I think like a lot of modern words aren't going to fit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you need the ba-ba rhythm to really fit the meter. And you can't, I guess toaster oven fits. Shit. I need an example. X-Lax fits. Lactate fits. McDonald's doesn't fit. So if you want like a McDonald's reference, you won't be able to say, or maybe you will. You just break the meter.
Right.
Then I think it's harder to hop around points of view, and it's harder whenever you read an epic poem. Like, you're never deep in Odysseus's head. You never follow like Odysseus is fighting the Cyclops, but he's also thinking about like some rabbits he had when he was a kid or something.
Right.
But you don't
It's
see
all
that.
surface. You fly on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that will work. But I mean, that's why I have to try it. Because I do think at the end of the day, if I don't try it, I'll be disappointed. And that if I make like, what's the word, like a compromise for business reasons, I'm not guaranteed to make any fucking money off that. In fact, I think like when you talk to artists who are making it, like with Sinners, Ryan Coogler did not make any compromises.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he made a lot of compromises in his other movies to get to making that. Like great artists don't make these kinds of commercial compromises.
I don't know. It's like the way you got to think of it's like this. Clive Barker didn't know how to make Hellraiser. He had to read books about how to direct movies. James Elroy did not know how to write in staccato. His editor had to show him how to do it, and he rewrote American Tabloid, actually, the book before that, to get it closer to that. While it was in the process of being edited, they sat down together and chopped the book up. And he taught himself how to write that way as he did that. So now that's how he writes. But if you go from Black Dahlia, if you go from that book and then start reading everything after that Elroy wrote, it's like there's a shift change. He taught himself how to do that. It didn't come naturally. So when you have these instances that you got to have some type of change, you have to look at the success stories of people who attempted the same thing, you know? And so, yeah, definitely try, do a first chapter. But I would embrace it. Don't say, well, let's see if it works. Embrace it. Go for it
Yeah.
100% because you have a first draft already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? You can always go back to that draft. But I would go in, hey, I'm 100% going to make this an epic poem and then see what happens.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to try to embody that spirit. I don't know if I will, but I'm going to try to embody it.
I mean, there's no reason apart from time why you couldn't have both. You could have like a double-sider. It's like, here's the more standard version. Here's the iambic pentameter poetry version. Or, you could release them as two separate books. You could have the poem as the version that's exclusive to your Patreon because that's your more kind of hardcore readers. So there's ways of doing both rather than choosing A or B. You can have A and B.
That's true too. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that. I could do it both ways.
Yes.
How long is the initial draft?
It's like all my work kind of hovers in this line. Like my first book, say Saint's Blood, was like 38K. Say Uncle is probably like 41, 42. Call Waiting is like 35 to 38. But I do tend to I write to a point where I know what the ending is, and I put it down and say the first draft is done without having written the ending because I know where it's going. And I'm at that point I get kind of bored because I know where it's going. And then when I revise it, I actually write the ending, and I'll change the beginning to better match where I know the ending's going.
On that basis, does that mean that you don't plan a lot? Are you more a pantser, to use
Yeah, I
the
mean,
modern
I have
terminology?
vague ideas, but I would say with say Uncle, when Braden goes into the upstairs room, I didn't know there was going to be a book at that point. I didn't know Uncle Paulie was going to have a book. I didn't know they were going to come back to that room. I kind of I write and then I go back to what I write and I see what I set up and I try to honor the setups that I put in there, or I'll go back and I'll add a setup for what I want.
So on that basis, then, say Uncle could have been a completely different book if he'd have found something else in the room.
I theoretically, I do think there's this is super woo woo, but I think as writers, we're dipping into our subconscious, and our subconscious knows what's happening, even though our conscious mind doesn't. And so I don't think it could have been a different book. I think my subconscious always knew. I just didn't know. My conscious self didn't know. And I think I'm just like an archaeological dig into what my brain already made while I was sleeping or something. It's not I'm creating, but like the part of me that's creating isn't the part that's writing. That part's unearthing what happened at some other weird time.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. And I mean, you say that it's woo woo, but I'm relating to this quite a lot, specifically with the current project that I've got. It's a collaborative novel with my friend John Crinan. And quite often we're looking for like a solution to a certain story problem. And then we look deeper and we're like, the solution has already been set up. We set this
Yeah.
up 20,000 words ago, but then maybe it's even more remarkable because this is two people doing it. Like, do we have the same creative subconscious for this one project? But so many times we're not sure what the solution is, and we already had it. We just hadn't dug deep enough yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Carl Jung said that there was like, and Bob probably knows more than I do because he studied psychology, but he said there was like, and maybe you all already know this, like a giant subconscious that we're all connected to and all feeding into, like archetypal images.
Collective unconscious.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Yeah. It's a fascinating concept, and it deals with archetypes and stuff like that. The man, and that makes me want to start reading some Carl Jung again, because that's some interesting stuff. I got into that kind of deep, but and I'm grateful that I did, because it got me into Burroughs and got me into reading Ginsberg and Kerouac and all that. It got me into, because all that, and it got me into the Doors. So, so it's all kind of comes together. I think that if Braden wouldn't have found a book, he would have probably found something else that would have been occult related. I think you were already kind of digging in that area. And so he could have found a box that had like, I don't know, a preserved tongue in it or something like that, something it wouldn't have to necessarily be a book. The book in this case is like a MacGuffin. It's catalyst to get you into the story. And I like that. And most of the time these things they're totems. They're MacGuffins that they're important. They're crucial to the story. But at the end of the day, they don't really mean anything. What it's the fun you had along the way. Yeah.
We've got a question from Traci via Patreon, and at this stage you're a number of books into your creative journey as a writer, and Traci is wondering how you are going about building your brand and what you might recommend for others looking to do that. And then kind of related to that, if you're looking to kind of go more in the independent or the traditional direction, and if the paths that you would take would then differ in terms of the brand building.
Good question. I don't think in terms of brand. But I do say, like, because I've mentioned before, like, I think you have to be a creator and you have to be a business person. I think, like, as a business person, yeah, I have a brand, but it's mostly like I don't want my socials, which I hate being on social media. If it was up to me and I didn't need to be on it for marketing, I would be off social media. And of course, I say that, but I'm also hopelessly addicted to social media. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But like my brand, I guess, would be I post photos of me after races, and I've been learning to smoke meat, and I post photos of that. And I do those two things for fun, and I enjoy them. But I post the photo so people don't just think, all this guy does is say, buy my book, which is really all I do. I also set up events a lot, and I set up events, one, because I enjoy doing them. I love performing. But two, I can go on socials and say, come see me in Tulsa reading from Say Uncle. And I'm promoting Say Uncle, but I'm also, it doesn't sound like I'm just saying buy my book for the 100th time. I'm saying come to this event. But as like a creative person, I almost never think about my brand. The things I think about as a creator are, how do I not just retread the same story again and again? How do I not? But then I used to think like that, but I also look at like, I'm a huge Stephen King fan. I know I mentioned Firestarter before, and he's not telling the same story again and again, but he's not changing voices between books. And so I've been trying to change voices between books, and I don't know if I should even be doing that. Because, I mean, a lot of great writers, when you pick up a Stephen King book, you know exactly who's writing it. You could go to page 50 of any of his books, and you'd know it was him. Yeah, and then the other part of the question was traditional or independent publishing. I think for an epic poem, if it ends up being an epic poem, it'll absolutely have to be either independently an indie or a self-published book. I don't think there's a big five press out there's like, this guy's had 3 indie books. Let's give him a contract, a big money contract for an epic poem. But I've never published with a big traditional publishing house. I would like to one day. I don't know if it would be my preferred thing. So I've self-published, and I've published with independent presses or small presses. And I've enjoyed both things. There's strengths and weaknesses to both of them, obviously. So I would like to try traditional publishing just to have like a full scope and then make a decision from there. But I also recognize it's almost like saying, I just want to try the NFL just for a couple snaps and see if I like it. It's not really how it works. So they're just like, we want you to try this big traditional publishing. But I mean, I would like to put my kid through college with book sales, but such is life. And the other part of the question was, would I change my approach depending which one I wanted? No, I wouldn't. And most of these we were talking about maybe 20 minutes ago. Even if you change your approach, there's no guarantee they're going to like that. And now you've compromised before they've even asked you to compromise. And I don't think that's a recipe for you to be happy and fulfilled in what you're doing. And I imagine that if you're like Simon Schuster, you're not looking for people who are bending over backwards to please them. You're looking for new original voices. At least that's what I hope what they're looking for.
I hope they're looking for a novel-length epic poem. I hope that you do get offered a traditional contract for that.
That would be great. I have no optimism towards that.
Go on, Simon
but it could happen.
Schuster. We dare you. We absolutely dare you. Let's channel some toxic masculinity to peer pressure them into publishing an epic poem.
You ain't got a spine unless you publish this epic poem. You spineless worm.
St. Martin's Press would do it. So, yeah. Why don't you do it, St. Martin's? Prove that you're harder than Simon and Schuster. Just trying to facilitate some kind of gang wars between the big presses. Del Rey, you want in on the action? You make an offer. There we go. We've laid the gauntlet for the epic poem. Wait for the money to come in.
Yeah. I love the idea that we can just peer pressure these Fortune 500 companies into epic poetry.
It's like that scene in Goodfellas. And then when you get out of your coma, I'm going to come and bash your fucking skull in again because I'm stupid like that. You going to publish my book or what?
Well, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
My 18-year-old self. So this is the Ryan who just failed out or just got rejected from every music school.
Yeah.
The thing that I really want him to know is that it doesn't matter what the gatekeepers at music school thought. You can just keep playing guitar. In fact, if you were to go back 18-year-old Ryan and look at your favorite guitarists, most of them didn't go to music school. That's the advice I'd give myself. If I were to give another 18-year-old, it would be just keep pushing, be persistent, because everything in life comes through persistence and stuff's not going to go right the first time. You got to do it again and again until you get it. I mean, some semblance of right, and some stuff will never work out, and you just got to accept that at a certain point.
All right. Where can our listeners connect with you?
I am at RyanB4890 on Blue Sky, Instagram. I'm still technically on Twitter, but I don't check it anymore. I don't open it anymore. And you can just friend me on Facebook. I'm Ryan Bradley.
Why 4890? Is that your PIN code?
It's not my PIN code. It's my birthday, though. April 8th, 1990.
Okay. That's that mystery solved then.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for spending the vast majority of your evening chatting with us. Thank you also for writing such a fantastic book in Say Uncle. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for hosting such a great podcast.
Do you have any final thoughts to leave our listeners and viewers with?
Oh, shit, I don't. Read Sick by Michael Lewis Dixon.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Ryan C. Bradley on This Is Horror. Join us again next time when I will be chatting with Josh Malaman about his brand new book, Watching the Evil Dead. But if you want that and every other episode ahead of the crowd, become our patron at patreon.com/thisishorror. Not only do you get early access to each and every episode, but you also get exclusive patrons-only podcasts, such as Story Unboxed, a horror podcast on the craft of writing, and Writing and Life Lessons with me, Michael David Wilson, and Bob Pastorella. Both Patreon podcasts are designed to help you improve your own writing and have actionable takeaways that not only deepen your understanding of storytelling, but help you take your own stories to the next level. Becoming a patron is also the best way to support the podcast and to keep us going. And I am hopeful to be doing this full time from next year. I've been doing it for 13 years and I really, really want to take it to the next level. But for that to become a reality, I need your support. Which is why every week I mention the Patreon. That's it in this creative game. There's no shortcuts. There's no get big or get rich quick. A lot of this is about one-to-one connection. So when I say every patron does matter, that is coming from the heart. And so if you want to be a patron, if you want to help make my dream a reality, head to patreon.com/thisishorror. And if you do have the financial means, please pledge today. Okay, before I wrap up, a quick advert break.
It was as if the video had unzipped my skin, slunk inside my tapered flesh, and become one with me.
From the creator of This Is Horror comes a new nightmare for the digital age, The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. After a teacher receives a weirdly arousing video, his life descends into paranoia and obsession. More videos follow, each containing information no stranger could possibly know. But who's sending them, and what do they want? The answers may destroy everything and everyone he loves. The Girl in the Video is The Ring meets Fatal Attraction for the iPhone generation. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audio. From the host of This Is Horror podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. Their watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. They're Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
Well, that about does it for another episode of This Is Horror. Do stay tuned post-music, because Ryan C. Bradley answers one more question that was submitted by a patron. So get ready for that, and I will see you in the next episode with Josh Malaman. But until then, take care of yourselves, be good to one another, read horror, keep on writing, and have a great day.
This is Horror Podcast.
So little Zach Ashford, teeny tiny Zach Ashford from Australia wrote in and said, I know from panels and other interviews that you've trained as a wrestler. Does the staging and blocking, if that's the right word for it, help you construct your fight scene / action sequences? Also, were you a heel or no? Well, Zach, love you, buddy, first of all. And sorry about calling you tiny, but I would do it again in a second. The short answer is kind of. So I would say the staging or blocking, as you call it, was not a huge help. But other parts of professional wrestling have absolutely translated. Like one of the things I learned about was selling, which in professional wrestling terms, it's how to make it look like you're hurt when you're not. And the selling has to continue. So if a guy hurts his leg, he needs to fake a limp for the rest of the match to continue to sell the idea that his leg is hurt. And that goes into other aspects of wrestling. Certainly you see it in wrestling matches all the time where someone will try to they'll hurt their leg, then they'll have to pick somebody up for their move, and they won't be able to do it because of the pain in their leg. And it's like a great storytelling technique. So I think one of the things that I take into my fiction from wrestling is that if a character gets hurt in some way, it comes back. If not in a way that makes them fail at something, in a way that just reminds readers that when you fall down, it hurts. When you punch a wall, you bruise your knuckles, they bleed, if you're punching correctly. So I always try to bring that in. And the other part of your question... Well, I guess the other thing I really learned from professional wrestling more than that was just, it's called a hope spot. And like the early drafts of Saint's Blood, my first book, did not have hope spots. So it's just Richie getting tortured until he escaped. When I learned about hope spots, which in professional wrestling, it's when the heel is putting the beat down on the babyface, or the babyface is putting the beat down on the heel, there needs to be what's called a hope spot where you get a moment where you believe that the comeback is starting, or you believe, but something that reminds you that the person who's getting beat down can still win. So that was huge in writing Saint's Blood. I have a lot of what I would call hope spots, and once I learned about what that was, I started using it. The other thing that wrestling taught me, and this is the weirder one, maybe more existential and less about writing. Before I trained to be a wrestler, which is something I never thought I would do, and then there was a school where I was living in Tulsa, and I just run a 5K, and I thought, I guess I could do anything, which is very silly now that like a 5K is not a big deal, but training to be a professional wrestler is huge. I learned that I could do anything I wanted in life, and I didn't need to wait for someone else to give me permission or to invite me. I could just go out there and go to wrestling school, which is very exciting and really, I don't know if I'd have published any books at this point if I had not had that experience. It really kind of like freed me from the idea that I had to have permission or wait for anyone. I just did this thing I always wanted to do, and it was a blast. And was I a heel? So I never got to the point where I was actually working matches. So I should say that first. Because the thing is that I'm 5'6", and for anyone listening at home, when I called Zach tiny, Zach is larger than I am. But I never got to the point of working matches because I'm not a large man and I'm not incredibly coordinated. So like, if you're 5'6" in wrestling, you better be able to do flips, and I was not. I had a blast doing it though. My plan was to be a heel. I was a college professor at the time I was doing this, and my basic plan was I would go out with a microphone. I would talk about how stupid the people, I was living in Oklahoma at the time, so how stupid the people living in Oklahoma or Texas or Arkansas, one of the neighboring states, Kansas, were. And then a baby face would come and kick my ass. And it would be just like this self-contained like little story where I got the crowd to want to see me get punched in the face, and then I got punched in the face.